Hello and welcome back to a very special episode indeed, um, where I'm going to be playing Canadian Highlander. Fortunately, James is here to tell me all the things that I'm doing wrong. Hey, James.
Yeah, I'm sure it'll be really great at telling you what you're doing wrong in an aggro deck, but we'll do our
Yes,
best.
I do realise actually I've invited you to an aggro matchup, which is going to be fun for me as well. Uh,
Expert professional level commentary from me here, I'm sure.
Yeah, no doubt. You can still tell me. Like I'm looking forward to you. I want input from you and from anybody watching who has any idea about this on cards I should be including or changes to the deck I should make. I make plenty of mistakes in this one, but we'll get to that as we go through. I think I have won the die roll there. But just to introduce the decks, I will introduce mine. So I'm playing Mono Black Aggro as the first deck that I've built for Canadian Highlander in my first tournament. The idea of this is to try to punish some of the combo and control decks that have got super greedy mana bases out there in your meta. So I'm just going to try to go under them. I'm also splashing red for Price of Progress because I'm a monster. My pointed cards, I've gone for Strip Mine, Mox Jet, Mox Ruby, and Demonic Tutor.
Pretty reasonable spread there.
Mm.
Niall on the other side. This is also Niall's first tournament, so a quick shout out at the beginning to both Niall and Nathan, who showed up to the first ever Canlander tournament, and our, for everyone's awareness, playing in the final here, which is why we had to have it on camera for two. Like, we'll just crush all of you. It's fine. Niall had a similar plan to you in that we're going to punish. This is partly because Niall does like a lot of the fun red cards. He just gets to play and he hasn't played for a while, but is also punishing in the same way the greedy mana bases, the slow combo control decks. With the red deck wins, good old fashioned traditional red deck wins. Points for Niall are 5 on Mana Crypt, 3 on Ruby, 1 for a Strip Mine, and 1 for an Ancient Tomb. The only slight query usually with red deck wins is whether you go Black Lotus plus Mox Ruby or spread the points out a bit. Niall has gone with spreading them out a little bit, which just gives you a bit less explosiveness for those Black Lotus starts, but also just a bit more consistency in terms of getting something done with a bit of a powerful busted go from the go.
Makes sense. And speaking of powerful busted cards to get out of the traps with, we have a Ragavan.
Oh, we also have a Deathrite Shaman.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
let's not undersell the Deathrite Shaman. This is a one mana planeswalker, as people famously like to say, that's been banned in modern. Ragavan's not been banned in modern, so really, let's be honest.
All right, fine.
But it's an interesting start here because obviously you're both fairly aggressive decks, but you would generally peg a red deck wins deck to be that bit more aggressive than a mono black one. And obviously Deathrite is a less aggressive start than Ragavan is as well. So it's interesting from like you here to try and decide how you want to try and play this, because I bet for a lot of today in the prior rounds you were I am the aggressor in every game, and it's not much of a thought a lot of the
Yeah,
time.
100%. So the way that I've built the deck and the reason I went with mono black was because I have access to the hand disruption, right? So I can start. Speaking of,
There you go.
I can really punish the slower decks with these kinds of effects. It's not as impactful against mono red though,
No.
because all Niall's this is like hyper aggro, right? In that all of Niall's cards just do damage to me,
Yep.
and hurt, and they do it fast.
Which lightning bolt would you like to make him
Yeah,
discard?
yeah, pretty
That's
much.
the question a lot of the time. But there's not actually a lightning bolt here. The
No,
braid doesn't go face.
the thing is, so
I would guess Lalia is the pick here, maybe Roiling Vortex. Those are the two that stand out to me
okay,
as being the more high powerful, annoying cards. Vortex obviously scares me because I'm a play slower decks for the most part, so I don't want to get pinged off the turn.
and that makes sense. I think, I mean, I know what I take. I'm going to take the Abrade. But
Okay.
part of the reason for that is because I do have Grief in hand, and I know that I'm going to take Lalia as well, I believe.
Oh, sure. Lalia is a scary threat.
And Abrade gets rid of my blockers.
That's fair. They're kind of just like removal spells on their own.
And here's the Grief. So it's a pretty nice start there.
Yeah, I'm pitching the creature that can't block is also like seems reasonable when
Yep.
you're trying to like make sure you're in a good spot against a red deck.
Yes, it's pretty, and this is a bad matchup for me because pretty much all my one drops can't block.
Yeah,
Like,
or they
it's-
enter tapped or
yeah,
something.
yeah,
That
mate.
makes-
It's rough. It's rough. This deck was not built to play against mono red. But I do have a 1 mana 3/4 here.
which is pretty powerful as
Yeah.
it goes.
Yeah, I'll take it.
That- and it's also, although obviously this it's a downside to some extent that it doesn't have the full Tarmogoyf both graveyards matter. It does give you some freedom to attack Niall's bin, which I'm sure he's not going to use that much. But there's a nice wall here. No extra 1-drop drawn. No playable 2-drop. So just a spike field. Is it spike field? I can never remember.
It
what
is.
these
Yes,
ones are
that's
called.
the one. Yeah.
So just
I do have to make my Nethergoyf smaller to cast Gix,
yes.
but I'm okay with this.
And yeah, obviously you are definitely in the ascendancy here, so it makes total sense to me to start being aggressive here. Even paying the life and drawing the cards seems totally reasonable.
No fear. No fear.
No, greatness at any cost, even though you don't currently have a dark goblin. Oh, that's not a cost. That's a shadow spear. Ah, you're fine.
And this is a bit of a spoiler as to why I got rid of the Abrade.
Yeah, that's fair.
Uh, yeah, so I didn't necessarily want to tell you everything, but yeah,
Yep.
that's why I went for Lelia and Abrade. So I'm pretty happy with those decisions.
Yeah, shadow spear is going to be an absolute house in this. If and it's not like red can't deal with artifacts. Obviously there are, but there's only so many that you will play that are versatile enough to fit into a Canlander deck.
And Abrade's one
and
of them.
Abrade is,
So,
yeah, and
yeah.
Abrade is like the obvious one of them as well.
Yep.
So that makes total sense. Yep. With that context of your hand, 100% getting rid of that Abrade. Just try and ride this shadow spear all the way to victory.
This is the plan. Unfortunately, like Niall's deck is fast enough that, and his a card that epitomizes that.
Yes. Rabble.
I'm gonna
Rabble
have
Master.
to gain a load.
Yeah, it's a really interesting card, Rabble Master, because it has been like it's definitely like still a very powerful card, but it's been chased out a lot of the kind of the non just mono red aggro list. Like it has had roles to play in like tempo and low to the ground like multicolor decks, and it's just kind of been power crept out a little bit.
So its only home is in like red now. Is that what you're saying?
I mean, you can definitely play it as a pet card. It's still a fairly obvious include. I mean, again, far from an expert in red decks, but to me, it feels like a fairly obvious include in an aggressive like 1 or maybe 2 color red deck. But like as soon as you start getting a bit more like diverse, it's just been power crept out a bit.
Got you. Importantly, it does say that goblins have to attack, so I just eat the 1/1 here.
Which is
Unfortunately,
yeah.
despite the fact that Ragavan kind of looks a bit like a goblin in some of the arts. Yeah.
I always
It's
think
not
that
one.
because I feel like Ragavan reminds me, the artwork on it reminds me of the Ixalan goblins because the Ixalan goblins are kind of furry. So like my brain half the time thinks Ixalan goblins are monkeys and half
Yep.
the time thinks Ragavan's a goblin. Never the right one at the right time.
Exactly. You'll see me kind of fumbling around a little bit. I have to do a lot of thinking in this whole tournament really because
Yeah.
like I say, this is the first time I'm playing the format and the first time I'm playing this deck. Even if I did build it, I still don't know how to play it.
And like you say, you've not played a matchup like this before anyway. That's an interesting one, putting the Shadow Spear on the smallest creature. That seems just you would want to gain the most life and put the most pressure on, I would have thought.
Yeah, this is just me, and this is potentially my first mistake in that I'm now giving Niall a window to get a load of damage in.
Yeah.
But like I'm looking at this as I'm gaining some life. I get to draw 3 cards off the Gix. It does cost me 3 life to do so, but this is me playing super aggressive against a mono
Yeah.
red deck, and that might just be a mistake.
It is a little scary, but if you can ride the Shadow Spear a little bit, like I say, have a land, get a blocker out here, or a removal spell for the Ragavan or the Ravelmaster or something. Maybe you're holding an instant speed one. But
I also just don't think I can necessarily switch to like playing. I can play more of a control-y player, but my deck is an aggro deck, so
I think the thing
just
that
continuing
confuses
to block's hard.
that maybe I would have gone with a bit is if you hold the Death Right back, you've got that activation on an Abrade off of the Badlands.
Yep.
So it could block a Ragavan or a Goblin if you just want to eat something. Still, you're only losing like a point of damage, but if you do get the drain off of it, if you don't have anything else to do with your mana, you've got that 2 points of life drain from the Abrade as well. It's not often you see a Death Right Shaman get in a red zone. Let's phrase it like that.
Yep. It's the first time I'm playing with a Death Right Shaman as well. Oh, that is horrendous, by the way. That's absolute filth.
Oh dear. Yeah, an interesting question for the Death Right. I can see a Cat gives that. Are you playing the Bayou just so you can activate the green half?
I'm not.
Okay.
It might be wrong, but yeah, I'm not playing any green.
It's not an auto include almost exclusively just because of price of progress, right?
Yep.
That you've already mentioned is in your deck, and you want as few non-basics as possible. But it does seem like there'll be the odd matchup where that being able to just either the life will matter, the gaining 2 life, or you could have inquisitioned away this Blood Feather Phoenix, for example, earlier on, and eaten it with the Death Right, which would have got rid of its kind of recursive ability.
Yeah.
So it might be worth a consideration for next time, just depending on how hard you want to go on the price of progress plan. But it's price of your only red card, right?
It is, yeah. It's the only one.
Yeah. I mean, I can't criticize that because I think we've just seen a video of me playing 1 red card in my basically mono white deck.
Yeah, splashing for 1 card in a 100-card singleton format is interesting, but it is quite easy to do.
Yes, and I also remember I was like, oh, I've got a point left. What's a good X spell that's in mono white?
That's funny.
It's just Forfeit Lingus, isn't it?
Yeah, that's the best mono white card.
Yeah. Oh dear. But this Goyf getting bigger again with the land, which is nice. And a 4-power Trampley Goyf is going to be strong because it's just going to kind of eat through the blockers that are there. Obviously, the bird can't block.
Yes.
And yeah, if you didn't have it, I again, maybe it's because I am more of a defensive player than this deck requires. But I think I would have held back. I would have equipped the Nether Goyf or the Gix, held back the Death Right, at least blocked the Goblin token, and then eaten the Abrade this turn.
I think that would have been right.
Right.
Especially considering Bowmasters just came out. But even still, I think I've not played against Ragavan, and so I'm realizing I just need to be scared of Ragavan. Why am I giving Niall extra cards?
Being scared of Ragavan is a very reasonable way to be.
Yep.
So, the voice says, yeah, so you've always seen 3 hand attack spells from you, so you can definitely have that added benefit. And it's not like black, it obviously lacks the burn that a mono red aggro deck would have, but it doesn't lack the removal that a mono red aggro deck has.
Yeah, that's it. So the reach is different as well, right? So I can't go face with stuff, but I can draw cards a lot better than Niall can.
Yeah.
And we're seeing that with Gix.
Yes. Do you have any spicy includes, those things that are... Oh god, what are they? Like things equal to the number of swamps you control, and that can go face and stuff like that.
No, I didn't include. Yeah, no, I've not got that, and maybe that's something that I go for later.
I don't think it's better. I just think it's different. It might even be worse, truth be told. I certainly don't think it's necessarily better.
So I didn't really go for any of that face damage or loss of life that black has.
Yeah.
I've focused very much on the creatures. I'm on 42, which is probably a similar number to what Niall's on.
Yeah, Niall's on 45, so yeah, not a million miles away.
And then it's basically just then cheap removal and the hand attack stuff.
Yeah. It's funny, you guys are kind of, to a large extent, playing around a bunch of each other's cards. Just from the deck. You're not that bothered about a Blood Moon because all of your non-basic things are basically there to make red anyway.
Yep.
Although there's Castle Lock right there, and Niall's not bothered about Price of Progress because I would imagine it's in his deck as well.
Yeah, I mean I'm close to a win with a price, but yeah.
So I played Niall earlier on in this tournament. and with my mono white deck, and I had two things that were designed to punish people using fetch lands, and Niall just doesn't have any fetch lands in his red deck. So I've got 2 mana 2/2s. Great, this is fantastic.
Yeah, that's
so
funny.
that is an upside of this type of thing where you do, especially in a meta that's not used to having many aggro players. Like we have kind of one fairly consistent aggro player, and every now and then everyone else kind of chips in a bit. If suddenly 2 more show up, and you're like, oh, this is completely like changed the meta from the balance of what you expect to play against.
Well, and the fact that both of us made it through to the final is exactly evidence of that. And it would be interesting to see whether people do kind of adapt or make changes to decks based on the fact that we might have 2 or 3 consistent aggro players.
That's you committing to coming back another weekend, then,
Mate,
I hope. So.
I have put way too much since playing this event. I've put a lot of thought into Canadian Highlander and my deck and what I should have done differently. I'm all in. I love it.
Nice. That's what we like to hear.
This thing is ridiculous. 4 mana 6/5 flying haste.
Yeah.
What?
Oh no, it can only attack every other turn. What a downside. It'll block. It does tap, I suppose. It can't block, but I'm like, it doesn't matter. Like the 4 mana haste flyers, the 5 mana haste flyers, they're the ones that kill you. The glory bringers and territorial hellkites and whatever.
So I thought it was a 4 mana 4/4 flying haste, which is why in a second we get a little bit confused of how much damage I'm taking, because I just didn't realise that this thing was 6 power.
It is a lot, like a lot.
So I do have a life linking Gix, which
this is now 4 power.
helps, but the Goblin
like
Ruffle Master is a 4 power creature now.
Yeah, you're gonna have to. I would imagine have to trade off for the Rabble Master here. Maybe eat one of the goblins with the Deathright.
Suggestion.
Seems to me the block, but it depends how much you think you can take. Obviously, you can't take the Hellkite and the Rabble Master and the bird, because that's 14, right? If my math checks out. No, it's 12. Okay, it's not quite that. So you could go to 2.
It's 12.
Which seems super risky.
Yeah. Niall doesn't play any burn spells. Be fine. I do make the exact block that you've suggested I make.
This will die. This will die.
So this leaves you on a reasonably healthy life total, gain a bit of life from the life link. And then still taking 9 here? Yeah.
I take 9 and then gain 4 from the
Let's
Gix.
do the damage I'm doing, and then minus a 4.
This is a problem. 2 aggro players being confused by lifelink on blocks. Clearly, that's the issue.
No, so the confusion. This is all on me because Niall's telling me the correct numbers, but I keep questioning it because I think that the Hellkite's a 4 power creature.
Right. Okay. And its power and toughness boxes are helpfully hidden by a bird. There
There we go. We found it. We've revealed its power and toughness. I'm on board now.
I mean, but you do have 7 damage on board here. So if for some insane reason Niall decides not to block, you're never going.
How is that a 4 mana? Oh, because now it can't attack.
Now it can't attack.
Oh, what a shame! It can't attack. Oh no.
I'm like, wait, how is this a 4 mana 6/5 flying trample?
Because Commander gets cards specifically printed for it that we all get to play with in this format. And sometimes it leads to great fun, and sometimes it leads to the initiative. So there's a balance between the two that has to be made. I mean, the Hellkite's not too brutal. Like, it is a lot of damage, but it dies to removal fairly easily. Like that is several steps below the initiative and the monarchy on
Right,
the
yeah.
multiplayer.
I'm not complaining about this card being
Yeah.
like overpowered to the point where it's a major issue.
Yeah.
It's almost like a 4 mana 6 to face kind of
Yes.
effect.
Yeah. In essence, because you can't ever block with it, so you have to be in these. As soon as you hit a remotely mid-range deck, it's not playable because you can't ever block with it.
Equip the
It makes sense.
charm. Equip the charm.
Niall does not block,
Equip the shadows.
although he's about to.
You kind of have to now. I think said that.
Go.
So yeah, see what I was saying about the Shadow Spear. I do think that if I had kept the Deathrite back earlier on, I'd be in a better position.
Yeah.
But
Although to
the
be
Shadow
fair,
Spear really has just taken it.
yeah, I was thinking earlier, if you'd blocked Ragavan with the Deathrite, obviously then they would have traded. But if you blocked the Goblin with the Deathrite, you'd have eaten that. But then the Bowmasters that he would have got off the Ragavan would have finished off the Deathrite as well.
Yeah.
So it's like there's definitely play to how you would have blocked if you
I
held
mean,
the Deathrite. It's the
I'm
obvious.
definitely blocking the Ragavan at that point if I'm
Fair,
keeping that
okay.
back.
In that case, it wouldn't be bad. And then you just draw the Bowmasters, which is pretty good against
Yeah,
Goblin Rabblemaster.
that. I mean, yeah, good call. In that case, definitely. I mean, I'm convinced that it was wrong anyway, but.
down
You've
to
also got
3.
to remember that I am a limited player and I need
Yes.
a lot of excuses not to attack.
That's fair. Oh, that's an amazing include.
This is
Love
my
that.
this is another bit of my spice. I love this.
Oh yeah, so is there a land in the bin? Could you do this now?
There is indeed a land in the bin.
Ooh, sneaky 5/5 demon that no one expected. Does it fly? It does fly. So
It certainly
yeah,
does.
you've got to feel like you're in a pretty good spot here.
I mean,
If-
yeah. I mean, at this point, that's my plan because it's a lot of fun.
Yeah.
Arnie's stupid though.
You may change. Oh, so it's going to become a 6 power haste for 4 mana, basically. This is a lot of damage still. As we've said several times when either of you are attacking, this is a lot of damage. But I suppose if you make... Niall has a red open, so if you can block the Ragavan, and then if you block the Ragavan, you can't then block with the demon.
I kind of like with Arnie being 6 power. That's 6, 7, 8, 9. I suppose I could technically just take the Arnie hit, but
Yeah.
I'm looking at going for the win here, so I'm just going to block the big.
Yeah, this feels safer. Like, not take the damage, make the demon before blocks, and you've then got 2 lethal threats. So, and it's highly unlikely Niall's got lethal with 1 red available, because the 1 red has to pay for the boast, right? So
Yes.
at the most, even if he has a land to follow up with, it's unlikely that land is going to either kill both the creatures or deal you lethal. And you're currently taking, what, 2, 4, 5?
Yeah. When Niall goes for the all attack here, I'm feeling fairly confident.
So I'm gonna exile a land.
I like that you laughed before you even described the line you were going to make here.
Yeah, because it's hilarious.
Exile a verdant catacombs from my
Yeah.
I have seen other people play this card. I've never actually seen it activated before.
Yeah.
So you definitely get prizes there.
by sacrificing all of my land.
Yeah.
Bye bye, lands.
Yeah, you don't need them anymore. When your opponent's got 0 life, you can have 0 lands. It's perfectly reasonable battle.
Here's a Rami.
Even bothered to get a token for it.
Yeah.
Yep. Well, this is famously a card that doesn't actually have an official token, so I actually made it myself.
That's dedication.
Yep.
And collective brutality
I
is
mentioned
damage.
Yeah, I mentioned I don't have damage, but collective brutality is a drain 2. But Niall's
well.
on 3, so
Yeah, going up to 5 is not good enough against 2 5-power creatures. So
I think I could have won it now.
yeah, so you got the first one. Good stuff.
I didn't win it this time.
and this was, I mean, it's on the checklist of things that I want to do with the deck, and I've already done it.
Yeah. Week 1, made a 5/5 fly demon by sacrificing all my lands.
Yeah, exactly. I'm having a great time. I also managed earlier on in the tournament. I managed to opposition agent Hal's fetch land.
Yep.
That basically won me that game. And I managed to turn 1 reanimate grief against a combo player.
I'm although I do obviously approve of breaking down combo players, you know, that's just my vibe.
Yep.
I'm much less supportive of scamming somebody than I am Team of Army somebody. So
All right, so you're okay with the tomb, not so okay with stifling a fetch and the scam on turn 1.
I mean, I'd be a massive hypocrite if I said I wasn't okay with it, because I definitely play Opposition Agent in almost every black deck and have at least 2 decks with Grief and Reanimate.
Okay, all right. Well, pipe down then.
I'm just not going to praise you for it. I'm going
Okay,
to praise
all right,
you
that's
for
fair.
your army. Mock start here, but a little bit of a pain. Kumano faces Kakazan, that is, right?
It is, and this is a very strong card. It was an uncommon in Neon Dynasty, and it's a real house in fast decks.
Yeah, it's 1 mana 3 damage, right? If you can't block the 2/2 that gets made from it.
Yeah, and it puts a counter on the thing you play on turn 2, right?
Yeah.
So we've got an Inquisition, and Niall is just holding a handful of burn this time.
Would you like to make me discard something that will do you 3 damage? Because that's basically all I have. Or is that a Furnace Punisher?
It is, yeah.
Okay, that's a if you don't have basics take damage, right? So that's not even like that scary as a threat against you.
It's not, but it's the
It's the only
creature.
Yeah.
So like, although I don't really care that much, I'm just like let's keep you off a creature. I also know that the Saga's about to put a counter on a 2-drop.
Not play that.
Is it a 2-drop?
Oh.
Furnace Punisher?
No, I think it's 3. I think it's 3 out of
Okay.
3.
And yeah, I for some reason had it in my head that I had the black one.
It's a bit ironic that your mono black deck has more red sources than black sources at the minute.
Yeah. Like I said, real easy to splash that one card.
The other way around now.
Yes. Yeah.
So we have
there
avoided
any-
the 2-drop.
2 on this one.
Is there any thought to
First creature I cast in my job,
I suppose maybe the Mox Ruby's just as an extra, like as a free land, is just fine enough. But is there any thought from your point of view now you've played the deck a bit to maybe those 3 points could be better spent somewhere
And it makes it 2.
else, given that you only need that red mana realistically once, and you've got plenty of sources in your lands, what with like Blood Crypts and Raucous Theatres and Badlands and Fetches and stuff, that you might get more use out of the points somewhere else, or are you still pretty happy with the Ruby as the 3 points?
I'm definitely open to suggestions. But I'm not sure what else I can do. Because the other things would be more tutors, and I think the ramp is more important than tutors
Medicine can't block.
That's fair.
in an aggro deck. Like you mentioned it earlier, of the red decks kind of wanting. Do you go for Black Lotus, or like, it's just like what cards do you want to use your what mana acceleration do you want to use your points for? And that's kind of how I've viewed it. And with mono black, there's not that many options. So if you've got any suggestions, then that would be great.
My only thought would possibly be whether you would want Vampiric Tutor and Ancient Tomb instead of Mox Ruby, because they're an extra 3 points. Vamp is another way to get Price. It's a second copy of Price. And like Ancient Tomb kind of makes up for not having a Mox Ruby. Not exactly. I'm not going to claim it's exactly making up for not having a Mox Ruby. But it kind of does. So that would be my only possible suggestion. Okay. But again, I'm not claiming expertise in aggressive decks. That's just a thing that obviously you can't play Tainted Pact either because you've got so many mountains. Strip Mine is another possibility. If as well you could maybe go a bit more on the mana thing, like have the strip. Or if you got
no, I am playing Strip Mine.
You're playing Strip with it, yeah. Okay. So yeah, that's the only thing I might suggest.
Okay. I'll have a think about it. Obviously, I'll play it a couple of times before I make wholesale changes. But on this game,
I do love this case of the Slash Skeleton. This is another one that I would love to be good enough. And as soon as you get out of mono decks, it's not quite good enough.
Yeah.
Jethro's played it in his Abzan deck before, and it every time he's played against me in a Katana, I can't kill a stupid skeleton because stupid skeleton is a demonic cheater.
It's a cool aggro card, I think. Notice though how many cards I have on the board that cannot block a 2/2.
That's pretty much all of them by the looks of it.
Yeah. Problem. So
and here's another dude. Yep. Okay. Shoot you as well.
Yeah,
oh, okay.
I'm just dead. So this was a mulligan error. I didn't realise that my whole hand was just couldn't block.
Sure. And that's important against the red decks.
It is, yeah. So there's
Um,
definitely a point of learning.
And
for
you
me
can
there.
tell in the time difference here as well, because like the way, although you're both playing aggressive decks, the way you play an aggressive deck, or the way your deck works, sorry, is not maybe quite as linear and straightforward as the red deck wins. Like that one just flew at you for a bunch of turns and burnt you out,
Yeah.
and that was it.
Yep.
Whereas you had to like spend some time thinking of when I attack, when I block, what to hold back. This shadow spear is important. So, like, although you are an aggro deck, you are not the aggressive deck probably that often here. You need to
Yes,
like be
no.
careful about when you attack and when
And
you
I'm
block.
looking forward to playing against Niall again, just because the way that I think of things, the way that I view the matchup, just has changed dramatically since me
Yep.
playing this.
What other matchups? I love when everyone does this
I know.
because I never have the brain power to take all of that in and remember.
If Kieran's here, he's like got them all.
Yep.
But I don't have enough of a magic brain.
So what else did you play against?
So
this
I
event?
played against fairies in round one, which was actually quite an interesting match. In that it went, I won it 2-1, but unfortunately my opponent had to mulligan down to 2 in match
God.
3, which I've never seen before. But it was a
No.
case of, I think it was first hand was all lands, then it was, no, first hand was no lands, second hand was all lands, and then every hand from that point forward had no lands. So it's like, okay, I can see, I can see how you've got into this predicament.
Yeah.
So yeah, managed to get that win. Then I played against Wilderness Reclamation Control, the one,
Yep.
the deck that we'd seen recently from Hal. That's where I got my fun opposition agent in, and then
He must have absolutely loved playing you because Hal's played mono black aggro himself multiple times. So.
yeah, he was real upset about the oppo because
Yeah.
he said his comment was, "I didn't play around that because I don't play opposition agent in my mono black aggro deck." And then I played against Flash Hulk in round 3.
Right. And that was the grief scam grief
Yes.
line, I assume.
Yep.
Yeah. That will do a lot of work.
Yes, indeed.
But you have something that can block, which is really nice here.
Nice little treat for me.
Yeah. And a demonic tutor to find what ever the best card is in your deck for the current
So
situation.
this is one of the key decisions in this whole match of what am I getting, because I don't have another land in my hand.
Right. Okay.
I do have 3 drops. And I don't think I have other early plays, so it's like I feel like I should be getting a land, but that doesn't seem powerful enough in this kind of a format. I know sometimes you just got to do it, but like, it doesn't seem.
I have done
right.
it far more times than I care to count. But again, I don't play decks. I play decks that want to last longer than yours do and want to cast bigger spells than this one does.
Yeah,
So
that's the other thing, right? Like, do
Yeah.
I just high roll it and hope that I hit a land and just? It feels like that's probably the better line from a win percentage point of view with my deck, because I don't want to draw too many lands.
No. I just get 2 with army, then you've got
My other options, so I do have a reanimate in hand.
Right.
My other options are Shadow Spear is obviously a very good option in the matchup.
Yep.
But as I said, then what I'm doing is the turn after, if I don't hit a land, which I'm assuming I don't, if I don't hit a land, then I'm just playing a Shadow Spear and like doing nothing.
Yep.
To then potentially equip it the next turn. I know that Niall has a ton of burn and removal for little creatures, so I could be just wasting 3 turns if I go and get a Shadow Spear, which is why I don't
And
do
wasting a
that.
demonic tutor. Yeah.
So considering I have reanimate in my hand, what I've done is gone to get a grief. Now, that is also not a great option, considering I'm playing against a red aggro deck.
Yes.
But
That
I'm
will count that 4 damage.
yeah, I'm kind of hoping that the hand disruption is enough, because taking 2 cards from Niall at this point may well be worth more than 4 points anyway.
Yeah, it's unfortunate that you can't reanimate it this turn as well, but
Yes.
I assume you'd still grief this turn rather than hold up the lack of knowledge about grief.
Yeah. So that's one of my 3 drops, is the Darkstar Augur, which again is a card that's just going to lose me life. I don't
Yeah, that's
really
the
want to be
Bat Bob,
casting
isn't
that.
it?
Yeah.
Yeah, so that's reasonable.
Bunch of good cards.
So there's Simian Spirit Guide, which is basically a land.
Yep.
Ash Zealot, which is a 2/2 first strike haste, I want to
Yes.
say.
Yeah. I opened it.
Scarlet is horrible. That card is busted. Very pushed card. I've died to that several times.
And the other one's the Rift Bolt.
So I suppose it depends on how you're going for. I might take Scarlet here, but it's as pretty because Niall already has a mana to cast her, and she's horrible.
Okay.
But I can see taking the the one-of removal spell.
Yeah,
Because she wants to be able to block, I assume.
yeah, exactly. I'm just thinking
Oh, maybe you don't want to be able to block. Maybe I was wrong.
well, yeah, well no, this is just wrong.
Right. Okay.
I think I'd got it in my head at this point that this is one of the cards that can't block anyway.
Right. Okay. They've
so-
all got slightly different wording. Some of them
Yeah.
enter tap. Some of them don't enter tap but can't block. Some of them enter tap and can't
And
block.
can't block, yeah.
And some of them just enter in a normal way.
I know what you mean.
So Niall's just playing the 2/2 first strike haste.
Yep.
Um,
Recast a spell from a graveyard. It deals. Okay. So minor upside against some things, but not a lot.
yeah, I'm not gonna. I mean, it is actually a good one against me, because things like Gutter Bones. Actually, do I cast them? I don't think I cast them.
A
do
lot
I? I
of
just
them are
return
activated
them.
abilities.
Yeah.
Ooh, Snuff Out. That is even more damage to your
Yeah, the hand is super awkward.
Yeah, I also again maybe I'm just unreasonably scared of Scarlet in Niall's hand, but the fact that means you can't block. Oh, a land though, that's good. That's a good land too. The fact that means you can't block is just like even playing a 3-drop here. It's just, I suppose if you could have blocked the Bomat last turn, you'd have taken 2. You can cast the Gix and hold up Snuff Out for the Scarlet, which is. I would say probably better. I definitely see attacking now once you know Scarlet's coming down next turn. You're not going to be able to block anyway, though.
So does Scarlet mean that none of? Is it just one thing can't block though?
No, target. I believe it's target player can't block this turn.
Okay, all right.
Maybe it's not target. It's something like that. It's a player can't block at all this turn.
Okay.
I think. Again, I've never actually cast it. I've just died to it.
So City of Traitors,
Doing the good imitation of Ancient Tomb.
and then there's
Yeah, creatures target player controls can't block.
okay.
And then this is another 4 damage. And if you've already got in your head that you're going to probably be taking 4 from a grief reanimate sometime soon.
Yeah, it's horrible. I think, but the cool thing for me, from my point of view, is watching this is, although this game looks like it's slipping away from me, I can see the mistakes that I've made, which is really cool. I was mentioning this to Kieran actually during the week since this match, saying that the thing that excites me about getting into Canlander now is how bad I am at it, and that gives me an opportunity to learn something new and get better at something. And
I do think a little bit. It's been funny watching you play limited that you've almost like this is going to sound really praising of you. I don't like it at all, but like you've gotten very good at limited. So I always feel like you've been doing worse recently at limited because you keep just drafting memes.
yeah,
You're like, what's the point in drafting
Yeah,
a good
what am
deck?
I-
I know
what
I
am I-
can build them. And
yeah. And maybe this is my opportunity to just have a bit of a playground and do fun stuff.
Yeah. This is definitely 100 card singleton formats. You can play the cards you want to, a lot of the time.
Yep. So this is interesting though. Like considering I know that Niall has the Spirit Guide.
So you take 4?
That's rough. Yeah,
But,
you
like,
you
it's
weren't
still
no,
fine.
He just drew 2 lands.
It
Yeah.
still feels okay because Niall's just not got anything. But it's very possible that I should just be taking a first striking creature out
Yeah,
of Niall's bin there.
I think if you were to know that it was nothing but Spirit Guide and lands, I think taking the 2/2 first striker would have been right. But you obviously don't know that. Right? This is problematic because this Spirit Guide mana is going to let him crack the courier, I assume, because has no desire to keep those 2 lands.
Yeah, exactly.
Is at least down to 1 creature, so your pressure is lower. But again, on 5 is not a healthy number against a red deck.
No, I'm expecting a couple of burn spells under this Bowmat Courier.
Yeah.
I do know that I've got a Shadow Spear coming the next turn.
That's fair. Yes, that Saga's going to pop off.
So there's definitely an element of if I survive this turn, but it was a big if from my point of view.
Yeah, shove it onto a Grief or a Gix, so that's 4 life gained, which is not nothing.
It's so good. I didn't read the second one.
I suppose your deck doesn't make too much use out of the constructs that Saga makes either. You just basically it's a land that in a few turns will get you an artifact you want.
Yes, having said that, maybe that would have been better as well, just making some more bodies.
Maybe just better than a Stalactite Stalker.
Yeah.
There's loads of stuff.
Because I mean, it still would have been a 1/1, but it would have been a 1/1 that would have then been a 3/3 the next turn. And does Scarlet have Menace or just Haste?
Just haste, I believe.
Okay.
But it also gives cards that it upkeep as well or something.
Okay.
It's pretty crazy.
Yeah, but I feel like you definitely want to be shoving either a Gix or a Grief in front of this Scarlet. Probably a Gix.
I want it gone.
Yeah. And you've kind of got a free block on a Goblin token that'll be made here. Because one of the Grief or Gix can block the Scarlet and the other one can block the Goblin token. That master doesn't have haste. So you shouldn't, based on just combat here, unless there's some tricky tricks, shouldn't need to take any damage and only lose a creature and hopefully get rid of both of these creatures. Yeah, I might even consider if I was Niall, not attacking with Scarlet just to keep the card advantage element of it.
The fact that the attack comes in makes me scared that there is a 3 damage to a creature in hand. Because I'm also thinking I wouldn't be attacking here. Hence, I'm looking at double blocking it.
But if there's 3 damage to a creature, I suppose you're just getting an attack in for 0 and bolting something you'd have bolted already. Because both of these trade, right? So it's not like if you double block to play around removal spell, you get blown out, or if you single block, it tramples over and you get blown out.
No, but if I'd single blocked and Niall had 3 damage to like an Abrade in hand, then that feels real good for Niall because the creature sticks around. I guess it doesn't really matter.
Yeah, so that's my
I get what you're saying. Yeah.
Yeah, like they've just used a removal spell on something that has 3 or 2 toughness, right? So, like.
So your 2 cards are.
Yeah. I can see where you're coming from.
But the thinking's not really there because I guess there's also tricks and stuff that you're just not playing in these formats.
Yeah, and that's the thing you have to kind of remember. And it's one of the things that, like, if you watch North 100s have said this a few times, like that combat tricks are probably the least played, the most underplayed card type in Canlander because they are powerful. Like if you've ever seen someone just go mutagenic growth berserk, you're just dead and you had no idea you were dead. Yep. But they just don't tend to get played. You're right. So that type of thing doesn't really need playing around. What are we doing this?
So I have just floated the mana, and again, I think, especially considering I'm about to get a Shadow Spear, I think I should just be making a 2/2 with the
Remember what else is in your hands here?
Well, we're about to find out. I did think about it, and I think it's just that I can't equip Shadow Spear if I go for that, and I need to equip it.
And there is going to be 4 creatures attacking you next turn because there's a Rabblemaster and a Goblin Guide.
Yeah, so actually, in this instance, I think I am just better off just making sure that the Shadow Spear gets equipped.
Possibilities here.
5 is not a lot. I suppose, although I probably still would have thought it would be better to block the way I described last turn. Having a Gutter Bones, I suppose it trades off for the Goblin Guide. Like it's not nothing. It trades off for the Rabble Master as well, which is pretty important. Because the Rabble Master is kind of, I would imagine, happy to trade off with a Grief and less happy to trade off with a Gutter Bones that is going to come back if you get your hand empty.
How much time have we got?
Gutter Bones has to come back as a sorcery, right? Do I remember that correctly? You can't end step it. I feel like that's
It's
right.
only during your turn.
Right, okay.
Use an additional mana to equip this. To...
I feel like just putting it on the most power is probably what you want to do here.
Yeah.
So that can get first strike. We'll go to...
Because you can't make Grief eat anything relevant. I suppose you can make it eat the Goblin Guide, but that's not really relevant. Oh, okay. We're getting violent. Gonna try and guarantee the life gain.
Yeah, that's again.
And then I'm just gonna move...
I think guaranteeing life gain and then just moving it across, although is risky. Like Niall's not shown me. Like I know that he's empty-handed at this point. So if he draws removal, then I'm pretty much just done for. But
So that Stalker being a 3/3 is relevant as well, because it can eat a Goblin Guide, trade with the Fallout card, his name I can't remember.
yes, so that's and because the Urza Saga hit the bin from the battlefield,
Yep.
so I descended.
Yeah, there's your Goblin Guide. And this thing, you pay energy to put counters on stuff or something?
Yeah, here it is. So enters, you get 2 energy, and then whenever an artifact attacks, you can pay 1 energy, and if you do, put a counter either +1/+1 first strike or trample on that creature.
Right, okay. That's still pretty well statted. Oh, it doesn't have haste though. Okay. So you're not taking the damage from that this turn. So surely the goblins all need to attack, right?
The goblins do all need to attack, so I think it's just a mistake playing the Goblin Guide pre-combat.
I exile this.
You might draw a land
Yeah, you reveal it.
every time. You never draw the land.
What happens to it?
But you do not get to eat the Goblin Guide if that's what you want. So, but you are taking 6 and gaining 3 if you eat the Goblin Guide, right? 1, 2. No, you're taking 5.
5. I think it's
So you're taking
5.
5. Yeah,
This is 4, 5.
gaining 3.
Yeah.
But you do remove a creature.
So lose 2.
And then
I think at this point I'm kind of feeling like maybe I have a window here. Maybe there's as far behind as I've felt up till this point. The Shadow Spear, if I can keep going with it. I'd
Yeah.
love to have a land.
Yeah, that is the one. There's not many downsides to Urza Saga, but when you don't get a mana source with it, and you were kind of relying on that mana, it is a little brutal. Not that you need loads of mana, like we said in your deck, but
Right, it's just in this situation I need to be attacking with a lifelinker and blocking with a lifelinker.
yeah. And also presumably trying to get some of the cards out of your hand as well, because you want to be empty-handed to eventually get that gutter bones back.
Yeah.
You don't sound super enthusiastic about your situation.
It's awkward. By the way, like I had an absolute blast in this match because there's so much to think about.
Attack you with this.
To contradict what everybody says about aggro decks just being play the cards, turn them sideways. This has not been one of those matches.
Yeah. It's interesting to think about the life totals. So you've obviously paid 8 life in this game for reanimate and for the snuff out.
Yep.
I think the snuff out was non-optional.
Bitter
It would have to have been cast at some point. And also, this is a perfectly reasonable play, discarding a thing that isn't going to block anyway to destroy a good creature. Also means you can, if you had another land, you could have brought back the Gutter Bones too, which is, or re-equip the Shadow Spear. Oh, that's horrible.
Yeah. So I felt like I was actually taking control of this game,
Yeah, I can see that.
but the initiative is a problem.
A 5/3 Trampler is a problem as well. There's obviously 5 damage represented by the trap, which is rough. There's 2 counters represented by the forge. But even other way, even if you put this grief in front of a Chaos Adventurer, you're still taking trample damage.
Yep.
Same with the Stalker.
Which means that Niall just gets the initiative back again.
Yeah.
So yeah, this was a real rough.
Yeah, that's a bit of a haymaker for Niall to get off the top.
This trigger only give it first strike.
First strike counter. Okay. Yeah, so I suppose now grief cannot trade with it, which is reasonable.
Energy to do so. Yes.
And the energy makes sense. So yeah, that makes a lot of sense. Grief can't effectively block a 2/2 first striker.
And I need to read this.
So.
Yeah.
And you can't even. I mean, you can guarantee getting the initiative here because you have 2 menace.
I have trample too.
Oh yeah, and it gives trample. And it doesn't have death touch. That's me making stuff up. But they've both got menace as well, I think, right? Both Stalker and Grief have menace. But then you just lose it immediately and take a buttload of damage. So it's a bit of a rough spot. You really, I would imagine, would like a removal spell for the Caves of Chaos Adventurer here. Or maybe just some big scary thing. I don't. Do you have any of the large Black Delve creatures to turn into cheap?
No.
Right, okay.
Now, yeah.
I think so many of my creatures are meant to just come back out of my bin that I chose not to. But maybe.
Right, okay. I mean, the black ones aren't as good as Murktide Regent. Let's be totally honest. Gomag Angler's fine, Tombstalker's fine, but they are not Murktide Regent.
Yeah. I think the biggest thing I have is the troll. But
yes.
Obviously, that doesn't. It's not the same thing. But that's my. I think that's my biggest creature.
Right.
Certainly my biggest creature mana-wise.
Yep. That makes sense. Yeah, you definitely want to keep that curve somewhat tight.
Gotta make it racial.
Cast a Rotting Regisaur.
Speaking of big creatures,
that is a big creature though. So that blocks the Caves of Chaos Adventurer.
It was a real good draw.
Yeah.
I'm now thinking like, okay, I have an opportunity here.
Yeah, because unless Niall has something, in order for Niall to guarantee the initiative, there needs to be a removal spell. This is poorly phrased. In order for Niall can definitely take the initiative, but he has to attack you with everything to do it.
Yeah.
And then potentially, put the Regisaur, depending on how scared you are of damage, either put the Regisaur in front of the Caves of Chaos to soak it up, put a Grief in front of the Goblin and take the 2, or maybe put the Grief in front of the Caves of Chaos Adventurer. That seems a little rough because of the trample damage. But
there's a real interesting conversation to be had here because and maybe this is just the limited player in me, but I think this is constructed as well, just not singleton. To what extent do you play around cards? Because
in combat, very rarely, personally, because you've got such a high card quality and number of cards to pick from that you can just have cards that don't need you to have situational stuff of being in combat to be good, unless they're absurd, like Berserk or something like that. Because if with this solo attack, I would definitely have just put the Regisaur in front of.
So I think you're right, and I wish I had.
Because that prevents the trample, and there's also a reasonable chance as well that Niall just wanted to draw something off the Caves of Chaos Adventurer and hopes you would block like this.
Yep.
As well and be scared of something. Because I don't think the Regisaur, putting a Shadow Spear on Regisaur is obviously good.
Yeah, like that, and that's why I've not done it, right? Because I'm scared of if there's any burn, then
should this Stalker should have another counter on it, actually, shouldn't it? Because you descended by just pitching the warrior.
It descending is from the battlefield to the graveyard, I think.
I thought it was just a permanent going in anywhere, because you can milling things with descending. That's why there's so much mill in little caverns, right? Maybe I'm wrong.
What's it called? Stalactite Stalker.
Just anything with descend would work then.
Oh, you have to discard it. Oh no, you don't discard it because after you draw step. Yeah.
Permanent was put into your graveyard from anywhere.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. So that would make this an extra point of damage, an extra point of life gain. Like it can attack more freely to keep fighting over the initiative, and you would theoretically still have a grief as well.
Yeah, that's
Yeah,
that's
I would
big.
definitely have. Yeah, I would definitely have preferred blocking with the Regisaur and just be like, okay, if you 2-for-1 me, you 2-for-1 me. What
Yep.
are we gonna do about it? Like, but 2-for-1s, you don't. Those blowouts you sometimes get in limited where someone has the one removal spell or combat trick that makes one block terrible and blows out all the rest of them.
Exactly.
Happens so rarely.
Yeah, and I'm just used to like you play around those because you lose the game if you don't. But there is a lightning
Yeah.
strike there,
Yeah.
so it was there,
Trap here,
but
and now you can't block. Right? Yeah.
but
So this is
but
probably
but trap just kills me.
Since you
Yeah.
lightning strike, can I do this?
Yeah, and again, if you'd have blocked with the Regisaur, you'd have kept the initiative. Nearly said monarchy.
Well, no,
but-
because did Niall have that lightning strike in hand the whole time?
So you draw it and discard it.
I'm not sure. Actually, that's a fair point.
Because I think this was a case of like the card has been revealed that I was playing around, but I still lose now.
Yeah, I suppose playing around it in the way you didn't help.
Yes,
If that's
exactly.
because the thing, yeah.
I'm gonna make this.
But then you'd still have had a Stalker, I suppose, as well to block with. But
Make this card block.
again, it might not matter. The breach is meaning things can't block.
Yeah.
It is pretty brutal. Yeah.
That'll do it. But yeah, well played to Niall. Not very well played for me. I've definitely fumbled my way through it, but I really enjoyed it. And Niall definitely deserved the win there, which is cool. Both of our first
Yeah.
tournaments, like you said.
Yeah, I just have to hope Niall comes back and doesn't want to retire on 100% record.
No, I've
Always
spoken
be
to
top
him
of that
since.
table.
He's keen to play it more too.
Excellent.
And with that, I will catch you next time. Thanks
Cheers,
for joining
guys.
us.
Bye.
Bye.